wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Been trying to change what I've been trying to say. Words don't come straight from my head to my mouth. It's such a shame that it fell out of place. Was never me that was bringing you down. Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish.
We thank you for welcoming us into your homes on this Sunday afternoon. Welcome everyone to the dawn of a new season in the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. Season 5 officially kicks off here today with the running of the Daytona 500. We started out with the clash at Bowman Gray, but then we flew here to the East Coast, the southern East Coast of the United States. For Speed Weeks, we had ourselves the duels, we had ourselves pole day qualifying. It's been crazy here so far this week, but now it's finally time to find out who's going to join the annals of drivers like Carson Gum, Carter Friesen, Cole Baker, and Trey Wright. Who is going to host that Daytona 500 trophy, and could one of the four aforementioned drivers become the first repeat winner of the Daytona 500? We are moments away from finding out. It's going to be a lengthy one here today. So far, these drivers have only run 20 laps in the respective races they've taken part in. Times that by 5, gets 100 laps here today in the Great American Race, and 27 hungry drivers look to get this fifth season started off with a trip to victory lane. Dylan Pote going to be the one to lead us to green alongside of Levi McIntyre. Both drivers were able to keep their cars relatively in one piece. McIntyre came to pit road on the white flag of his duel to preserve his spot in the front row. Dylan Pote got involved in a wreck, but he was able to finish out the race on the lead lap. They buffed out the hood, and both of them will start on the front row for this race. Everybody else lining up behind them according to where they finished in the two respective duels. We'll be getting to the full starting lineup in just a moment, but it's time to go down trackside for pre-race ceremonies. Let's first have the national anthem, followed by the command to fire up the engines here today at Daytona. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Drivers, start your engines!
Pace car is going to lead the 27-car grid off of pit lane, giving these drivers about 2.5 miles to think about how they're going to approach today's Great American Race. And we got a car already in trouble off the grid. Car that would have been on the outside line. Not certain who that would have been. Might have been James Qualls in the 17. And it was. So James Qualls, who was scheduled to roll off from the 16th position with an issue, not rolling off the grid. They'll hopefully be able to get him out there before we go green. Maybe he'll catch a quick yellow and stay on the lead lap. But it will be Dylan Pote on the front row with Levi McIntyre. They earned that front row in pole day qualifying. Nick Gunther, our winner from the first duel, and Jack Mitchell, our winner from duel number 2. They're going to make up row number 2. Amanda Evans will roll off from the 5th position, and her teammate Andrew Lemke to the outside in 6th. Benny Watson and Charles Sanford are going to make up row number 4. And then in row number 5, Pedro Lucas and Jesse Turner completing the top 10. Tim Walsh going to make his Duracell Cup Series debut here today as he rolls off 11th with Cole Baker, the former Daytona 500 winner from Season 2, to his outside. Dylan Young and Joshua Osborne in row number 7. Phil Parker and James Qualls in row 8. Row 9 finds Austin LaPlante and Patrick Smith, and row 10 with Cody Lamas and Kyle Matthews. Former Daytona 500 winner, the inaugural Daytona 500 winner, Carter Friesen, on the inside of row 11 with Keith Batson to his outside. The defending Daytona 500 winner, Trey Wright, on the inside of row 12 with Ryan Busher, our winner from the Clash. Michael Wayne Robinson will roll off from the inside of row 13. Carson Gum, who hopes to finish on his wheels this time. He's been upside down in the past 2 races here at Daytona. The former Daytona 500 winner from Season 3 rolls off 26th, and Matt Haas starts shotgun on the field in the 27th position. Green flag, ready to fly. Let's get ready to roll here in the Great American Race, Daytona 500 for Season 5. Out of turn 2, down the back straightaway. These drivers have had a couple of opportunities to figure out what this racetrack and what these cars are going to be able to do with this new package. But they have yet, until now, to run in a full 27 car field. Poteet trying to fight on that inside line, but it will be McIntyre leading the first official lap of Season 5 as they're 3 wide behind them. Benny Watson got kicked to the middle, and here comes dual winner number 1, Nick Gunther. He's going to go to the inside, 3 wide with Poteet and McIntyre. He's going to have the momentum off of turn 2. Now he'll leave them 3 wide, several rows deep behind, as he'll be out in clean air with nobody to drivers left or right. But as soon as I say that, here comes the top line. Levi McIntyre with a big push from Jack Mitchell in the 0-1. Couple of things drivers will want to bear in mind in this race. Number 1, don't attempt 4 wide in the tri-oval. It has not worked out well here in the past couple of days. The other thing you're going to want to do is get yourself to the front, because we've seen that drivers have been able to get themselves to the front and manipulate the draft, manipulate where the run is coming from. A lot of the drivers that have won the respective races so far here this week have done it from getting up to the front in the first 5-6 laps and then really not letting anybody else by. But we are seeing quite a bit of passing here at the front, at least for the time being. Nick Gunther had the lead for a moment. Amanda Evans made a charge on the inside. Now McIntyre around the outside is going to get the top spot with a nice push from Jack Mitchell. Now he'll move down in front of Nick Gunther in the middle line. We'll see if Mitchell, with help from Andrew Lemke, can make something happen on the top side. Pole sitter Dylan Poteet kind of boxed in there in the middle with Mitchell in front, Lemke to top side, Amanda Evans to inside. Let's try and get an update on James Qualls in the 17. As he still sits on pit road. So something very much amiss on that car. That is a tough break there for James Qualls. Certainly not the way that entry out of Joanna Atwood Motorsports wanted to get Season 5 started with. McIntyre sees Mitchell come and moves up to throw the block. I didn't know if he was going to be able to get up there in time, because Mitchell and Lemke had a nice run there through 3 and 4. But that is going to cost him as far as his corner exit speed, because Nick Gunther is going to edge ahead for the top spot, and he clears McIntyre. Tucks up in front of that number 99. Pedro Lucas in the 21. Going to make a charge to the inside. Pedro Lucas, of course, out of No Limits Racing. He and Natana Miedo were the 2-car non-charter team back in Season 4. Now a single-car entry here for Pedro Lucas and 2 other teammates. And he's got Dylan Young right behind him in the 2-car. Dylan Young up there in the top 10 for most winningest drivers in the Duracell Cup Series. Was a 3-time winner back in Season 3. I believe was a 2-time winner last season. Sounds like James Qualls has gotten his car refired and he continues on. Yeah, so he's about to log his first lap of the 5th season of Duracell Cup Series competition. And, you know, obviously, as I said, tough break there for James Qualls, who right now has scored 4 laps down. I think he's actually just fallen a 5th lap down with him passing them there in 1 and 2, but there still is something to fight for when you consider the fact that this is Daytona. Yes, you're 5 laps down, but we've seen already here this week a couple of really violent wrecks. I mean, who'll forget the 3 cars we had flipping and barrel rolling on the front straightaway here in duel number 1. There's every possibility that we could see the big one take place here at any point of this 100 lapper. And James Qualls would definitely be able to pick up at least a couple of positions if this turns into a race of attrition, and positions mean points. I have to chuckle, because a big storyline coming into this was the former Daytona 500 winner from Season 3, Carson Gum, and the luck he's had so far here this week, flipping upside down on his roof, sliding across the start-finish line in the pole day qualifying session, and then barrel rolling through the grass in the duel. I don't like how this looks. Friesen, Matt Haas, Levi McIntyre there. Tim Walsh is going to back out and let Carter Friesen in. So I told you that they can make 4 wide work. And they made it work there. You just have to have a little bit of give and take. But Carson Gum has not had a very good speed weeks. And I noticed that the 19, he's hanging out at the back. He is literally running last car in this pack, and he seems pretty content to be back there. There's a couple of other drivers that have kind of faded back there too. Amanda Evans had a great qualifying effort at 5th, but she has now dropped back to the tail end of this lead group. So you're starting to see the strategy of drivers that are fighting their way to the front and drivers that are more than happy to just drop to the back out of harm's way. Tell you what, the Fords are on the charge right now though. Pedro Lucas, Phil Parker have had a very spirited battle the last couple of laps for the top spot, and now the defending Daytona 500 winner, Trey Wright, looks to the inside with help from Carter Friesen. There's a couple of former Daytona 500 winners right there linked up in the 38 and the 6. Friesen, the very first Daytona 500 winner, and Trey Wright, the last Daytona 500 winner. And they've got Florida natives to their outside. Cody Lamas in the middle, the Carvana Chevrolet, and Dylan Young. And the white and orange Hooters Ford Mustang. Right now, though, it is still Parker and Lucas. And the last couple of times, it's been that outside line with Pedro Lucas that has gotten the advantage at the start-finish line. Saw a photo finish. Oh, a couple of photo finishes, really. In both the pole day qualifying session, where James Qualls was able to win that one, and then, of course, the photo finish between Nick Gunther and Amanda Evans in duel number 1. So, that start-finish line, you kind of can get the feeling that it's going to play more of a factor into this race as much as anything. The one thing I'm going to be very curious about, that we are going to more than likely be talking about in about the next 10 laps, is fuel. Because we ended up seeing fuel strategy really actually come into play in both of our duel races. And we were able to go down and talk with crew chiefs, talk with drivers, get a little bit of an idea what the fuel window is for these guys. And it's about 19 to 21 laps, depending on how much you save. This is tight through 3 and 4. Phil Parker trying to clear Trey Wright. Can Trey Wright tuck down in front of Tim Walsh? No, he's going to clip the 74. Phil Parker with a nice save there as he almost was headed for the infield. And look at this. Actually helped him get a run. And did he edge Carter Friesen at the line? He did by a splitter. Nice save there by Phil Parker. That was a hairy situation off of turn number 4 and coming to the start-finish line. And no, right now, I'm going to give the Good Samaritan award to one Tim Walsh, because that is the second time there's been a 4-wide situation. He's been the car to back out and allow drivers a lane in front of him to be able to recover it. He opened up a lane there for Trey Wright to tuck down, which Trey Wright actually didn't take, but he also opened up a lane earlier with a 4-wide situation for somebody to be able to tuck in line and get back to 3 wide. So Tim Walsh, I'll tell you what, if he wins this Daytona 500, let's go back to those 2 moments where he basically allowed us to continue to run under the green flag. 65, Amanda Evans looks like she might be losing the draft back there, but they are 3 wide, several rows deep ahead of her, so she might have a shot of still getting back up there. Close back there, almost 4 wide. Jack Mitchell nearly to the left rear quarter panel of Levi McIntyre as he had, I believe that was Michael Wayne Robinson to his inside. Carter Friesen around the top side in the 6. Now these drivers, a few of them, have had the opportunity to make green flag pit stops here this week. As mentioned, we ended up having a couple of drivers pit in the closing stages of Duel 1, and number of drivers come to pit road at the end of Duel 2. There were some that were gutsy enough to be able to have enough fuel to make it to the start-finish line, hence how they got the good starting track position for the 500 up inside of the top 10. But we really have not seen a huge pack of cars come to pit road altogether. I think the most we've seen so far this week was about 6 or 7 drivers back in Duel number 2. And Daytona's pit road, the traffic control that has to take place to get onto pit lane with a big pack of cars is maybe even more challenging than what we're seeing right now out on the racetrack itself. So this is going to be very interesting if we do manage to see green flag pit stops. Maybe not even as much so their ability to get onto pit road, what the aftermath is going to be when they come off of pit lane, because usually, more often than not, the field will get rather spread out. But as was proved back in Duel number 1, when Amanda Evans was running, what was it, like 14, 15 car lengths behind Nick Gunther, she actually had enough draft to be able to get up there to Nick Gunther and challenge him for that duel win by the time the race was coming to a close. So draft is powerful here, and we will see just how powerful it's going to be if the field does indeed get spread out. But we're about roughly 5, 6 laps away from when these drivers are going to have to think about coming to pit lane. And there you can see Amanda Evans has caught the tail end of the draft, and she is good to go. Interesting that we've got a split strategy between our 500 winners as well. Trey Wright and Carter Friesen up here inside of the top 5. Cole Baker and Carson Gum running at the tail end of the field, and there was nearly some contact exchange right there between Trey Wright and Cody Lamas. I don't know if the 38 just got tight and almost got up into the driver's side door of the 1, but we were almost 4 wide there, and Cody Lamas was nearly run out of room. That was a close call. Lap 16 about to go on the board. So this will actually mark, at this point in time, actually all the way back on lap 7, I believe, actually marked the longest that drivers have gone so far this week in an event at Daytona without a caution flag coming out. We had an early caution in our pole day qualifying session. We had early cautions in both of our duels. So far, hopefully not tempting fate, we have not seen the caution flag wave. Phil Parker, big run to the inside of Carter Friesen. Phil Parker is one of those guys. I remember that there was a point where we were talking about drivers like Jack Mitchell and Adam Garcia, how they had run so many races, but they hadn't been able to find victory lane. Of course, Garcia snapping that winless streak last season. Mitchell had snapped his winless streak a couple of seasons ago at Darlington. I think now the driver we're going to be focusing on for that this season is going to be Phil Parker. His 3rd full-time season with Lake Effect Autosport, and he is yet to go to victory lane in that machine, and he's a guy that for the last couple of seasons has run full-time. He just has not been able to find victory lane, so we'll see if maybe here in the Daytona 500 if he can pick up his first career victory. I mean, what better place to do it, huh? If you're going to get your first win, make it a big one. Thought I heard the idling engine, the single car of James Qualls. They will more than likely be coming to pit lane before they encounter him. Qualls still officially 5 laps down, the 27th position. All 27 cars running, 26 of them on the lead lap at this point in time. And start to watch for hands out the window here down the back straightaway, because I think this is now the point where we could see some of the drivers beginning their preparations for coming to pit lane. Let's see if anybody's going to duck below the yellow line off of turn 4. Phil Parker is going to be one of them. Cody Lamas is in. Benny Watson, Ryan Butcher, Charles Sanford, Joshua Osborne, Cole Baker, Andrew Lemke, Carson Gum, and Amanda Evans. And Evans actually just ran into the back of Carson Gum coming onto pit lane. And I don't know if that caused any damage to either driver or if it was just a light tap, but there definitely was contact between the 19 and the 65. How that spread this field out, though. It looks like a grenade went off, and the fragments now are what are left of the field out there. And now does Carter Friesen come to pit lane here? He's been out in clean air for a while. Yes, he does. Looks like everybody might be following down behind him. Matt Haas, who started shotgun on the field, now there. That was a driver staying out. That's Jesse Turner in the 47. That is interesting strategy because Jesse Turner does not have anybody else out there with him. So he is going to not have an optimal lap time here. There's his teammate Phil Parker coming off of pit lane. There is Turner. Well, Turner's going to get himself at least a lap-led bonus point, but I'm not certain about this strategy because he's all by his lonesome. He's going to be coming down a very lonely pit road. He's not going to have a very good up-to-speed lap with nobody to draft with. Gets a little bit of a tow off of Cole Baker there down the back straightaway. So that's going to help him a little bit, but we'll see how this works out for the driver of the U.S. Air Force Ford Mustang. And we'll have to see how this cycles everything around as well. Phil Parker was the race leader when the pit stops began. Is he going to be the leader when the pit stops conclude? I think this could be your race leader, Carter Friesen. Just now coming off of pit lane. Matt Haas behind him. Let's watch for the 74 of Parker. There's Parker. He's got Cody Lamas, Benny Watson, Charles Sanford, and they've got a ton of speed, a ton of momentum. As Cody Lamas actually going to dive to the inside of him. I think Friesen's going to get the lead, though. Matt Haas will be in second, as he'll actually try and jump to the outside of Friesen for what I think is going to cycle around as the race lead. And it sounds like Jesse Turner was just now leaving his pit stall, so he is not going to have the race lead. We'll see where he cycles around to, as that was the pass for the top position. And we're going to have about 7, 8, maybe 9 cars up in this lead pack at this point in time for the top spot. Carter Friesen, Matt Haas, Phil Parker, Cody Lamas, Benny Watson, Joshua Osborne, Charles Sanford, Dylan Young trying to catch on to the coattails of this top 7 and making an 8-car pack. There's James Qualls in the 17. He won't be pitting for another 3 or 4 laps as he's off the sequence, obviously. Now, this is where the strategy really comes into play, because what kind of a Daytona 500 were you planning for? Were you planning for one that was going to have an early caution? Or maybe multiple yellows? Or were you planning for a long green flag run at a super speedway? Look at James Qualls. Some manufacturer alliance there as he threw the block on the Chevy and the Toyota and gave the open lane to the Ford Mustang of Phil Parker. So even though he's many laps down, James Qualls still trying to do everything in his power to see that a blue oval is going to win this Daytona 500. He's got a teammate back there as well in Joshua Osborne. Wonder if he can help that Hunt Brothers Ford Mustang to maybe try and pick up a victory. That would be Osborne's first win of his Duracell Cup Series career. So let's run through the order right now. Last time they crossed the start-finish line of who is where after our first cycle of green flag pit stops, and I've got the feeling maybe not our last. Phil Parker, unofficially the race leader. Carter Friesen second. Matt Haas in third. Cody Lamas fourth. Benny Watson is fifth. Dylan Young in sixth. Joshua Osborne seventh. Patrick Smith in eighth. Ninth is Charles Sanford. 10th place right now is Nick Gunther. 11th, Ryan Butcher. Trey Wright scored in 12th. 13th is Cole Baker. 14th, Andrew Lemke. And 15th, Michael Wayne Robinson. Then Tim Walsh, Kyle Matthews, Jesse Turner, Austin LaPlante, Levi McIntyre. That's your top 20. Followed by Pedro Lucas in 21st. Carson Gum, 22nd. 23rd, Jack Mitchell. Keith Batson, 24th. 25th, Amanda Evans. And Dylan Poteet had a very slow pit stop. I don't know what happened with our pole sitter, but he is right now running last car in the lead lap in the 26th position. James Qualls right now scored 5 laps down, and we saw him dive onto pit lane, so he will be more laps down than that once he leaves pit road, his first official green flag pit stop of the day. So if you look here in this lead group, which currently houses 9 drivers, Only one driver in your screen is a former Daytona 500 winner, that being Carter Friesen. Every other one of these drivers here looking for their first Daytona 500 victory, and for two drivers, that being Phil Parker and Joshua Osborne, they are looking for their first career win in the Duracell Cup Series. Patrick Smith was a former winner last season, although he wasn't high enough in the point standings for a playoff spot. Matt Haas made the playoffs last season with a victory. Cody Lamas. Trying to remember if he was a winner last year. I remember he was a two-time winner in Season 3. I can't remember if he was a winner last year or not. Benny Watson was a winner last year, as was Dylan Young, obviously. Charles Sanford, though, to my recollection, did not have a win last season. He was a winner back in Season 3, but riding a bit of a winless streak in that Coca-Cola Chevrolet. So we focused here on the lead pack. Let's drop back and see what other packs are formed right now, and if they're going to be able to get up there to the lead group. Trey Wright, the defending Daytona 500 winner, is leading group number 2, with Walsh, Gunther, Lemke, Matthews, Turner, Butcher, Robinson, and Baker in it. That is 10th back through 18th right now. And if we look in terms of lap times, Jesse Turner just ran a 44.471. The race leader, Phil Parker, ran a 44.524, so they are losing time. Is this lead group, right, or the second group, I should say, right at this current moment. They are running about a little more than 3.5 seconds behind the first pack. But if this first pack continues to race the way they are, and if this pack can get themselves, well, even double file like this, they've got a good shot of maybe being able to cut into that interval pretty quickly. Just got to keep themselves formed up and hope that that first group has chaos. Here's group number 3. Levi McIntyre, the outside of the front row driver. Austin LaPlante, Keith Batson, Jack Mitchell, Pedro Lucas, Carson Gum, and Amanda Evans in this group. This is 19th on back to 25th. And this group, they're just hoping for a caution at this point. I don't think they've got enough numbers or enough speed to be able to even get up to that second pack, let alone the lead pack. And then there is Dylan Poteet in the 31, and I'm not necessarily certain what's happened to him. Sounds like that car is up to full song. I would have to assume something happened to him on pit lane during that first round of green flag pit stops, and it is so difficult to go coast to coast at a super speedway of all places, and barring something happening here in these next 70 laps, it does not look like Dylan Poteet is going to be able to capture this Daytona 500 victory from the pole position. Well, right now, that second pack is holding station with the first pack. They keep hovering between 3.6 and 3.7 seconds behind the race leader, which is now Patrick Smith in the 77. We saw Toyota, which is the most outnumbered manufacturer this season in the field, fire the first shot with Ryan Butcher picking up the victory in the clash at Bowman Gray. Ford then fired back with James Qualls picking up the victory in the pole day qualifying race. Levi McIntyre capturing the outside of the front row, and then Chevrolet did most of the damage late in speed weeks. Nick Gunther and Jack Mitchell winning the respective duels, but Toyota looking to fire back again. It looks like they've got actually 2 of their Camrys up here inside of this lead group, with Patrick Smith leading this race and Matt Haas hovering there around the 4th, 5th position. So we'll see what they're able to do. As Toyota this season, each week right now, projected to only field 4 Toyotas, 2 out of Auto Junction Racing, 1 out of Haas Racing, and 1 out of TCW Racing. That being the 11 car, which is shared with Cole Baker, Tristan Allen, who is a former Charter Win driver, and Will Goss. Patrick Smith, trying to remember the 2 drivers that are teammates with him in the 77. One I know for certain is JT Bryant, who's scheduled to be making his Duracell Cup Series debut in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to remember who the other driver is off the top of my head, and I don't have the list in front of me either, so. But we will be seeing the secondary drivers of these respective teams next week at Manassas, and then the trietary drivers, I guess we'll call them, the following week in the third race of the season at Las Vegas. And of course, those drivers of the respective cars and teams are obviously going to be watching and cheering on their team cars to maybe head into Manassas or Las Vegas with a win or two. As Phil Parker, I don't know what happened there. He got really loose with Dylan Young on his rear quarter panel. Slides up the track and opens the door for Dylan Young to be able to make a move for third place, but Dylan Young, no friends on that inside line. He's going to be a sitting duck. He's going to get freight trained. As Parker will hold on to third, Osborne looks to go to fourth, Friesen looks to go to fifth, and the two car going to drop to the tail end of this pack. And that second group, they have apparently been racing, because they have, in the last 3 laps or so, they have lost 2 seconds to the lead pack. What was 3.7 seconds from Trey Wright to race leader Patrick Smith is now increased to 5.7 seconds. So now I think we can safely say that group number 2 falls into the category as well. Add them to the list of drivers that are hoping and praying for a caution flag to come out. But it's interesting, the fact that we have managed to go green so far in this race. Consider this fact: if we go green from start to finish, with the fuel window being right around that lap 20 mark, there's going to be some drivers that could be very close to making it on fuel in the closing stages of this race, depending on if they were able to go 20-21 laps on a run. And we saw the duels come down to fuel strategy, both of them. Would we see the Daytona 500, which is mostly known for pack racing and photo finishes, could we see it come down to a really spread out field and who's got the fumes to make it back to pick up the first checkered flag on the season? I mean, you never know what kind of a Daytona 500 race you're going to get. We've kind of seen both spectrums here in the last 4 seasons. And right now, at least right now, it seems like the tone is being set for the long green flag run. Who can stretch it the longest on a run? Who can preserve enough fuel in the closing stages and not have to make that final pit stop in the final 5 or so laps of this race? Dylan Poteet, you just saw there in the 31, is now going to be trapped a lap down. So that's going to even more so hurt his chances of going coast to coast here in the 500. He's going to have to hope for a very lucky timing of a yellow flag, with him staying out and being on the lead lap at the time. And we're actually starting to close in on that window of second round of green flag pit stops coming up here. Should be somewhere in the next 3 to 4 laps, I do believe. And I think Patrick Smith's going to be the Pied Piper that's going to be drawing at least drivers from this first pack to pit lane, because he has spent most of this green flag run out in clean air. And when you're out in clean air, you are creating the draft for the cars behind you, consuming the most fuel. Joshua Osborne, big run to the inside of Cody Lamas for second. Not going to be able to make it work. Dylan Poteet, the lap machine, though, going to offer some drafting help to a Ford rather than staying up with a Chevrolet and Cody Lamas. And Joshua Osborne says, thank you very much. It's going to push him up to the runner-up position. And Phil Parker, who was one of the first on pit lane the last time we had a green flag pit stop, is actually diving onto pit road this time. But he is the only one. Nobody from group number 2. I don't know what it is with the Lake Effect Autosports cars coming pit road by themselves. Jesse Turner did it back in the first round, and now Phil Parker does it here. Carson Gum and Amanda Evans going to hit pit lane as well, but they, as you saw, were also all by their lonesome. There's some moving and shaking back there between Dylan Young, Carter Friesen, and I don't know if these guys are getting themselves set up to get to the inside line for the easier access to pit road, or if that was a battle for position. Looks like actually Dylan Young backing off. He might be coming down this time. No, it actually was Carter Friesen backing off and coming down, and Dylan Young was in the wrong lane. He really had to whoa up as Friesen, Osborne, and Charles Sanford all coming to pit road. Here come drivers from the second pack. Andrew Lemke, Cole Baker, Benny Watson, and Ryan Butcher. I want to point this out, all these drivers that are running back here outside of the top 10, top 20, still got to keep an eye on those drivers, because the reason I'm saying that is Benny Watson, if you'll remember back in, I think it was the second duel, as we got now our race leaders coming onto pit road. Here comes Smith, lap car of Dylan Poteet, and then another Toyota in Matt Haas. But we ended up having Benny Watson come to pit lane under the only caution of the second duel to repair some damage. He was involved in the wreck on the front straightaway. He was able to save enough fuel to make it to the end after running most of that duel off the pace back around, I think it was, what, the 14th, 15th position. So there is every possibility that a driver, even though they may be running outside the top 10, outside of the top 15, that they could have enough fuel to be able to snipe away a top 5, top 10 by the close of this race. I believe this is going to be your battle for the race lead once again when everything cycles around. Carter Friesen been doing a great job here today of keeping himself up inside of the top 5, and now the field is going to get uber spread out. We had ourselves 3 nice, tidy little packs, but now it's going to be, I think, packs of 2 or 3, and it's going to take a little time, I think, for these packs to get formed back up. Well, I thought we were looking at the battle for the race lead. I think this is actually your battle for the race lead. A couple of white, black, and neon green Toyota Camrys of Patrick Smith and Matt Haas going to tuck in behind the 31 of Dylan Poteet, who right now would love to see a caution because he would be scored on the tail end of the lead lap, running just ahead of the race leader. Carter Friesen and Joshua Osborne trying to reel them in, make it a 4-car pack for the race lead. And now Dylan Young, Cody Lamas, Phil Parker, Charles Sanford, and the lap machine of James Qualls all hooking up here. We'll see if they can generate enough speed to get up there with the top 4. Jesse Turner now coming off pit lane. Trey Wright, the defending Daytona 500 winner. Both were able to stretch it a little bit further than everybody else. That could be important for later on in this race. There's Baker, Lemke, Butcher, Robinson, Michael Wayne Robinson. A lot of people looking in his direction this season, as he was one of a few drivers, non-charter drivers last season, that picked up a couple of charter victories. Andrew Lemke making his debut overall. Lemke last season did not run in the non-charter series, making his debut for Evans Gardner Motorsports, doing a great job. Ran well in his duel, qualified in the 6th position, and right now was running in 10th, but I think he's going to lose a couple of those spots with Robinson and Tim Walsh ganging up on him on the top side. Carson Gum all over his back bumper on the inside line. All right, let's give you a visual full field rundown after our second round of green flag pit stops. Joshua Osborne has now propelled his Hunt Brothers Ford Mustang to the race lead. Matt Haas is going to be in 2nd. 3rd place, Carter Friesen. 4th will be Patrick Smith. 5th will be Dylan Young. 6th, Jesse Turner. 7th place, Cody Lamas. Charles Sanford right now runs in 8th. 9th place is Cole Baker, and Michael Wayne Robinson completes the top 10. Andrew Lemke is 11th. 12th, Tim Walsh. 13th is Carson Gum. 14th, Jesse Turner. And Ryan Butcher right now completes the top 15. 16th place under contest, give it to Keith Batson, dropping Nick Gunther back to 17th. Pedro Lucas is 18th. 19th, Trey Wright. And 20th will be Austin LaPlante. Benny Watson's 21st. Kyle Matthews in 22nd. 23rd place is Jack Mitchell, who appears to be all by his lonesome Got a two-car tandem here with 24th place Levi McIntyre and 25th place Amanda Evans. Dylan Pote, first car, one lap down in the 26th position, trying to battle, get himself back on the tail end of the lead lap. And James Qualls currently 5 laps down in the 27th position. So all 27 cars still running, 25 cars on the lead lap as we near the halfway point here in the Daytona 500. There's James Qualls. Many laps off of sequence with everybody else. So that was his second official pit stop under green as his teammate flies by for the top position. Well, so far this season, if we look at the speed weeks as well as the Clash, we have had a total of 3 drivers win the respective races that are already former winners in the Duracell Cup Series: Ryan Butcher, James Qualls, and Jack Mitchell. We have had 1 driver go to victory lane that has never, not even won nor run at all in the Duracell Cup Series, and that was Nick Gunther. Joshua Osborne is looking to make it 2 out of 5 for a driver picking up their first win of their career here at Daytona, and it would be a big one. Now, bear in mind, with the playoff system, only 10 cars, 10 single teams, are going to make it into the playoffs. But it is a win-and-you're-in system, so if Joshua Osborne is able to find victory lane, he then hands the reins over to Alex Tanker and Matt McIntyre, and they've got the opportunity to try and find victory lane and continue to build on the win total for the 27 team to solidify themselves a spot in the playoffs. Joanna Watwin Motorsports has, of course, had a very storied history here in the Duracell Cup Series. They are a team that has run 3 of the 4 main manufacturers. They actually started out with Fords and moved to Toyotas, then made the jump over to Dodge, and finally full circle came back to Fords. Of course, boast a Duracell Cup Series championship with Ryan Acosta back in Season 2. But yet to have a driver win the Daytona 500. Daytona 500 has had 2 Chevrolets win it. That was Carter Friesen in Season 1 and Carson Gum in Season 3. Toyota with a win in the Daytona 500 with Cole Baker back in Season 2. And then, of course, Ford breaking into the win column in the Great American Race last season with Trey Wright. Let's see if we can find an area of the track where there's some good battling going on, because things are rather single-filed out there at the front of the field. This is 8th place on back. Jesse Turner, Charles Sanford, Trey Wright, and company. It's actually a big pack. Really big pack. This is, what, 8th place on back to around 20 seconds. Let me look at the lap times of these cars, because they might actually have something. I don't know if they got enough time here before we get to our next round of pit stops, but they might actually be able to reel in that first pack. This is the biggest pack we've seen, really, since the first round of green flag pit stops. Turner, last time by, ran a 44.369. Race leaders ran a 44.309. Now let's look about this time by. See if they can reel them in, because right now, Phil Parker, or make that Jesse Turner running about 9.5 seconds behind the race leader. Let's see if they ticked away any of that with this lead group. They have reeled in Dylan Young, Phil Parker, and Cody Lama, so now that's going to be 5th place on back to about 22nd. And Dylan Young and company were running about 7.5 seconds behind the race leaders. We'll wait for the telemetry to come in here and see if they are making progress. They are going to get slowed up a little bit here, encountering that trio. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get the speed wound back up, but I think that these guys Yeah, there's Patrick Smith all by his lonesome. I think these guys could catch the top 4. We could have ourselves a big pack again here halfway through this race. And that would be pretty cool, because it did not look like we were in for having a big group of cars again, unless a caution came out. There's Patrick Smith about to be literally swallowed up by this lead group. And where do they all go? They've all got a big run. All the lanes have a big run. Smith's going to go to the outside. That's going to hurt Dylan Young, Cody Lamas and company. Actually also hurt the middle line with Phil Parker and Michael Wayne Robinson. It helped in turn Jesse Turner, Andrew Lemke, Cole Baker, and Keith Batson, who were all on the inside line and flew their way through, now up into the top 10 for all 4 of those drivers. So these guys are heading into turn 1. This group of 4, we're coming out of turn number 2. And just looking at the lap times right now, that second group is faster. That second group, they're running lap times in the 44.3s, 44.4s. All 4 of these drivers here just ran the 44.5. So there is a tenth of difference in speed, though there is about 2 corners, and we'll see. We'll see if these guys can reel in that top trio as well as the lap machine of Dylan Poteet, if they've got enough time, because we actually are fast approaching what's going to be our 3rd round of green flag pit stops. We are now halfway through this Daytona 500. All 27 cars still running, 25 of them on the lead lap. If you're wondering who's led the most laps so far here today, Patrick Smith had 12 laps led, and Joshua Osborne is about to come around and complete his 12th lap led. So if he comes around and completes another lap out in front, he will at this point be the driver that's led the most laps in this race. Carter Friesen has led 9 laps, Phil Parker a total of 7. Pedro Lucas has been out in front for 5 circuits. Andrew Lemke has led 3. Levi McIntyre has led 2. And then Matt Haas, Nick Gunther, Dylan Young, and Amanda Evans have led 1 apiece. For that second group, they've got the numbers. They've got the speed. They're hitting 201 going into the corner. I think the race leaders were around 199. So they are faster than this quartet. But again, as I said, we're, 5 laps away from when pit stops are going to happen again. So enjoy looking at this big pack while you've got it, because it may not last long. What's it look like when you're battling in the pack like this at Daytona? Let's take our Carvana on board with Cody Lamas. Well, if I can actually get the cameras to work correctly, let's try that again. Carvana on board. Had a car diving for pit road. That was Carson Gum in the 19. And all by his lonesome. You heard a lot of drivers there in the middle of that pack bailing out of the throttle. So it's going to hold a little bit of that second half of this group up just a tad. That also could be part of why we see the field get so broken up with the green flag pit stops. Some drivers having to either lift out of the throttle or bail completely to avoid running over somebody that's coming to pit road. Carter Friesen in the 6 on pit lane. Well, right now, Carson Gum, Carter Friesen, a couple of former Daytona 500 winners, with them pitting at this point in time, I've got them projected short of being able to make it on just one more pit stop. Andrew Lemke's in, Charles Sanford, Patrick Smith. A couple of those guys are ones that have spent a good portion of this race out in front too, so leading laps may have really hurt them in the fuel strategy category and put them kind of behind the 8 ball to begin with. Joshua Osborne is going to pit this time, so Matt Haas will come around to lead his 2nd lap of the Daytona 500. Here comes Benny Watson and company on pit road, bringing Cody Lamas, Cole Baker, Dylan Young, Phil Parker, and Ryan Butcher. Keep an eye on the drivers that are able to stretch it maybe another 2 laps. Those are the drivers I think then can make it on one more pit stop. Everybody else is going to be close to maybe having to pit in the final couple laps of this race. Can Matt Haas go an extra lap? Does not look like it. He's coming in. Dylan Potte's going to come down with him. I already said that I think Jesse Turner and I think Trey Wright have played some really good strategy. And Turner staying out an extra lap here. Is he going to get this lap led? Ooh, it's going to be close between him and Matt Haas. He did. Jesse Turner's going to lead that lap. So that'll be his 4th lap led of the day. Nick Gunther stretching an extra lap as well. So the 47, the 55, the 38, I'm writing down these numbers because these, to me, are the drivers that might be able to make it on one more pit stop after they make this pit stop. I think everybody else is going to be some big question marks. Jesse Turner's going to come down this time. Nick Gunther's going to follow. Now, who else stayed out with him? Trey Wright, I know, and the 38 did. He's coming down this time. Looks like Keith Batson might have also stayed out. No, Batson was actually in the last lap. So, Turner, Gunther, Wright. Are those the 3, at least at this point in time, that we are looking at that might be the ones to decide it for the 500 if we go green to the conclusion in terms of what they can save on fuel? Gonna have to wait and see. Matt Haas could very well be the one cycling out as the race leader, but he's all by his lonesome, so he's going to get reeled in by some company pretty soon. Looks like that company is going to consist of Joshua Osborne, Dylan Pote, and Carter Friesen. Pote trying everything he can to get back on the lead lap, but time and laps continue to tick away. Got ourselves a pack. Cody Lamas, Benny Watson, Patrick Smith, Andrew Lemke, Charles Sanford, and Carson Gum. Watch for these guys. I think they could catch this pack of 4. Well, Lemke's actually going to duck down to the inside, so it's going to hurt them a little bit. If they can stay single file, I think they can generate a lot more speed, but that's such a tough thing at a super speedway, especially with this package. The toe, the draft, the slipstream, it's so strong. You get such a big run. Watch the 32 of Benny Watson. Watch the run he's going to get here with help from Carson Gum up to the back bumper of Cody Lamas. Well, you saw actually there Carson Gum step out of line, but we saw it in the duel. We saw when Amanda Evans was reeling in Nick Gunther all by her lonesome. The draft is so prevalent here with this rules package. And so you've got all that momentum, you've got all that speed, you've got to take it somewhere. You don't want to have to breathe out of the throttle just to hit the car ahead of you. You want to take that momentum somewhere. You want to make a move for position. And that's why it's so difficult for some of these guys back in these further packs to be able to stay lined up, to generate that optimal speed, to reel in the packs ahead of them, because they've got to take that momentum somewhere. There you see about 20, maybe 25 car lengths between Carter Friesen, last car in Pack 1, and Cody Lamas, lead car in Pack 2. We've also got another pack that's starting to form up back here with some Fords. Keith Batson, Jesse Turner, Michael Wayne Robinson, and Dylan Young. We'll see if those Mustangs can all get lined up. Nick Gunther right now has Pedro Lucas as his wingman. Now, Gunther, I think, would like to have Lucas in front of him so that way he can continue to save fuel. The car that he is racing right now would be the 47 of Jesse Turner, and Trey Wright's behind both of them as he's in this little group of 4 with Cole Baker, Phil Parker, and Tim Walsh. Right now, Trey Wright in the 20th position. Gunther crossed the line in 14th, and Jesse Turner is battling with Keith Batson for the last spot inside of the top 10. Big push there, even though no contact, but you could definitely see the momentum from the 1 in the 19. What Dale Jr. calls that bubble push. There's space in between, but if you get into just the right area, the car behind gives a big push to the car in front. Oh, Amanda Evans just went a lap down in the 65, not the Daytona 500 that she was looking for. Former non-charter winner from last season at the Indianapolis road course. Had a great qualifying effort, second in her duel. Started 5th for this Great American Race, but now joins Dylan Poteet at -1. So Dylan Poteet and Amanda Evans, they'll be battling, at least for the time being, for the 25th position. First car 1 lap down. Look out top 4, because here comes Cody Lamas, Carson Gum, and they've got a 2-car tandem not to be trifled with, but now Carson Gum's actually going to step out of line on Cody Lamas. Might have been running hot there, spending so long behind the Carvana Chevrolet, so Carson Gum trying to get some clean air to the nose, try and cool that engine down. And now we'll proceed. Well, he wanted to tuck back in line behind Cody Lamas, but Patrick Smith says no, no, no. He sticks his foot in the door. No help on the top side, though. Lemke going to join Chevrolet Bowtie teammate, if you will, Carson Gum on the inside line. Now Patrick Smith's going to get trapped behind Amanda Evans. Loss of momentum. Oh, Amanda Evans trying to give room to both lanes. Going to slow up Benny Watson, Charles Sanford, and Patrick Smith. So nobody really won on that exchange. Benny Watson, of course, for his career, has driven a Toyota for Otter Island Motorsports, was a free agent this season, picked up by Pigeon Racing, now driving a Chevrolet for the first time in his career. Joshua Osborne, Carter Friesen, this is for second place as Dylan Poteet doggedly trying to get himself back on the lead lap. Jack Mitchell, our winner from the second Duracell duel, about to go a lap down. Boy, it seems like if you had good starting track position here today, you were one of the first to hit some bad luck. James Qualls was going to roll off from 16th place. He didn't even make it to the green flag. Spent the first 5 laps on pit road with a mechanical problem. They finally did get him back out there. Poteet started on the pole. He fell a lap down. Amanda Evans started 5th. She's a lap down. And Jack Mitchell, who started 4th with that Duracell dual win, now falling a lap down to the race leader, Matt Haas. That final pit stop for some coming up in the next 10 laps. Be interesting to see when the pit stops begin. Here comes Lamas. Here comes Gum. Lemke with them as well. We got some new players at the front. Now, it's really strange to say, but Cody Lamas driving a Chevrolet for the first time in his Duracell Cup Series career. He's driven a Toyota and he's driven a Ford for Michael Norman Motorsports, but now they're over to the Chevrolet Bowties, sharing this ride with the aforementioned Michael Norman as well as Trent Dunham. And Cody Lamas, a Florida native, designated to drive the car here for the 500. One of two Florida natives on the team. Michael Norman, also out of the state of Florida. Trent Dunham from the state of Texas. And Cody and Carson Gum. This, my goodness, this is a duo right here. I'm telling you what. We were talking about Carter Friesen as the possibility of the repeat Daytona 500 winner, but now you got to enter Carson Gum's name into that mix. And Carson Gum's got to be looking around saying, I'm still on all four wheels? What is this? Went upside down twice here this week during speed weeks, but doing a great job right now. And let's go back to the strategy that Carson Gum had at the beginning of this race, where he rode at the back of the lead pack. It worked. We are side by side, 4 rows deep. We've got battling within battling. You've got 6 drivers of this group that are all battling for spots inside of the top 5. You've got 2 drivers in Jack Mitchell and Dylan Poteet who are battling for first car 1 lap down, which would be the 24th position. And I know that doesn't seem like much, but I'll tell you what, when it comes down to the end of the season, if we end up having drivers that are able to make it in to the playoffs through where they're positioned in the points, every position here in the early stages of the schedule is going to matter. Thought I heard some traffic up ahead, but it's a couple of corners further up. James Qualls, the lap machine, and then you've got Austin LaPlante, Kyle Matthews, and Levi McIntyre, who are battling 21st through 23rd. Last drivers on the lead lap. Yeah, there's quite a bit of distance between them and this lead pack. Let's check back here, see if anybody's got a chance of getting up into this lead group. Here's the drivers that were held up by Amanda Evans, Patrick Smith, Charles Sanford, and Benny Watson. I don't know if they're going to have enough time to get up here to this lead group, because this group's got more numbers than they do. Nick Gunther has gotten around Jesse Turner. That could be an important battle right there, because remember, right now, the only drivers on the list that we think can make it the rest of the way on this final pit stop would be Nick Gunther, Jesse Turner, and the defending winner of this race, Trey Wright. Now, we may add more to that list when we get to this potentially final round of green flag pit stops, but right now, those would be the 3, and Nick Gunther has the track position on the other 2. Look at Cody Lamas and Matt Haas, neither driver giving an inch. Neither lane getting the advantage. Now Cody Lamas edging ahead on the inside line, but now the top side battles back once again. Who leads this lap? It's going to be Lamas. Will this final pit stop be the deciding factor in the 500? Or will drivers in this pack not be able to make it to the checkered flag without having to come to pit lane for another quick splash? Right now, I'm looking at a couple of guys like Carson Gum and Carter Friesen. Carter Friesen was out in front for a good portion of this race. Has he been able to save enough running at the tail end of this pack? Carson Gum was the first driver, I believe it was, to pit road on our last cycle of green flag pit stops. Has he been able to save enough? Next 4 laps will give us an idea. I believe that if drivers can at least make it to the conclusion of lap 80, they will be able to make it the rest of the way on what they put in the tank. If drivers come to pit lane any sooner than that, I don't see how they're going to be able to make it to the checkered flag without coming to pit road at least one more time. It's the moment of truth. And Carson comes to pit road. So that says to me that definitely Carson Gum is not going to be able to make it the rest of this race without coming to pit road at least one more time. What about other drivers in the lead pack? Let's see if anybody else from the second or third groups. Amanda Evans is coming in. Who can stretch it at least 3.5 more laps? Cody Lamas. Let's see if he's got his hand out the window to maybe head for pit road. Some drivers are running high up on the racetrack as if someone ahead of them might be coming down. Osborne's in. Lemke's in. Carter Friesen's in. I don't think these guys can make it. Patrick Smith and Charles Sanford are in. Again, we've got 3 drivers designated right now that I think can make it to the lap 80 mark. But can anybody else join them? Matt Haas, surprised that he's actually been able to go this far, as he was pretty much the lead car for most of this segment after the last round of pit stops. Looks like he might be coming down this time. Cody Lamas, is he going to be coming down this time? Really high there off of 4. He's going to stay out an extra lap, as will Matt Haas, so they know the target lap. They know how far they want to make it to. Carson Gum going to go a lap down here. There's Patrick Smith and Charles Sanford being bypassed. That's actually positions that Carson Gum's picking up there. So now we've got the race within the race within the race. We've got drivers that are trying to make it to that lap 80 mark. We got drivers that are trying to get track position on the drivers around them, knowing that they're probably going to have to pit before this race is over. Plus, we've got the battle that's going on with the lap cars. Poti getting held up there by Lemke. As here comes Cody. Oh, and this is at the conclusion of lap 79. So this is, what, a half lap, maybe a full lap short on fuel? Nick Gunther, Jesse Turner, they stay out. Batson stays out as well. There's another driver to add to the list. Michael Wayne Robinson stayed out. Charles Sanford, I believe, stayed out. No, he did not. He actually has already been to pit road. So who we got? We got Gunther, Turner. Oh wait, this is actually about to be, I think, for these drivers, the conclusion of lap 80. Yes. I was looking at the lap car, thought that they were still going to be a lap short. And here they come. Robinson's going to stretch it another lap. So Gunther, Turner, Batson, who else? Trey Wright's going another lap. And Cody Lamas is coming off of pit road. Man, can Cody save a lap? That's going to be a big ask. Look at Carson Gum, way off the fuel strategy, but I think he could possibly cycle around as the race leader. Man, I don't think he's going to be able to stretch it. What it would be, about 23, 24 laps. Max he can really go is 21. He's going to have somebody be his wingman. He can't be out in clean air like this, or else he doesn't have a ghost of a shot. You got McIntyre, Kyle Matthews, Austin LaPlante. They've had their own little battle this last run, and they're all coming off pit road together. There's Trey Wright on pit lane. More than likely also Robinson. Yep, there's Michael Wayne Robinson, the 93 on pit road. All right, so right now I got 5 drivers. 5 drivers that I think can make it to the conclusion. Nick Gunther, Jesse Turner, Trey Wright, Keith Batson, and Michael Wayne Robinson. Things looking good for Ford right now. See if this is the battle for the race lead potentially between Lemke, Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, and Joshua Osborne. Now Cody came to pit lane at the conclusion of 79, which puts him potentially 1 lap short. But we see him running in the draft of others, so could he be trying to save that extra lap? Trying to remember when some of these others came down pit lane. Andrew Lemke, I think, came down the lap before Lamas did. I think that Joshua Osborne did as well, so they'd have to save about 1.5 laps or 2 laps of fuel. Carson Gum, I don't think can make it at all, and I think he realizes that. I think he's just racing as hard as he can here, trying to maintain track position between himself and other drivers that are in his current situation. We have run 82.5 laps without a caution flag. And this off of a Speed Weeks that saw the caution wave multiple times, multiple cars torn up, 3 cars at the same time barrel rolling through the front straightaway tri-oval. I don't think any driver came into this race preparing that we were potentially going to go green flag from the start to the finish of this race. But it has certainly thrown a bit of a curveball to these drivers. Some have been able to rise to the occasion in terms of strategy. Others have fallen prey to it. And will be looking to get out of Daytona with the best possible finish, looking ahead to next week at Manassas Speedway. A track which, by the way, was home to winners such as a Duracell Cup Series champion in Chris Dollerton, and a former Daytona 500 winner in Trey Wright. Lemke to the point. That's only the second lap led for Andrew Lemke here today. Carson Gum, when he was out in front, that was his only lap led on the day. And now Matt Haas and his Toyota going to be pushed out in front. And I think right now you're actually seeing the battling for the race lead because nobody wants to lead this race. Everybody wants to be tucked in line and save fuel. But noticing Cody Lamas, Joshua Osborne, neither one of them have really taken a turn at the front here. Been content to ride in the draft as Levi McIntyre about to fall a lap down. And this is going to be a battle between himself, Mitchell, and Poteet. This is going to be for 23rd between those 3 drivers. And Poteet will take the spot from McIntyre. Now, if you're Dylan Poteet, he's a teammate to the 19 of Carson Gum. Poteet's been able to make it a couple laps further than Carson Gum on these green flag pit stops. Would he be willing to get in front of the 19, offer him the drafting help he needs to try and save enough fuel to get to the finish? '17 of James Qualls up ahead, about to go another lap down to the race leaders, and see Carson Gum trying to get the draft off the 17. It's gonna, whoa! I think Qualls was expecting cars low and got trapped in the middle. Carson Gum's going to complete that pass, and he's going to pull out ahead of this pack, which is not a good thing. Other tracks, very good thing. Super speedways, we call it the proverbial sitting duck. All right, let's check in on those drivers that we know for absolute certain can make it, and now it is advantage Jesse Turner. As a matter of fact, you've got 4 of the 5 drivers that we pretty much know can make it to the conclusion of this race in this pack. Jesse Turner, Nick Gunther, Michael Wayne Robinson, and Keith Batson, all in this group. So your battle potentially for the win, if it does come down to fuel numbers, could be taking place in this second pack between a Chevrolet and 3 Fords. But, you know, there's still guys here like Patrick Smith, Pedro Lucas, Charles Sanford, Carter Friesen, Benny Watson. We don't know. Maybe they can make it. And if they can make it, they're in this area with the track position as well. So don't sleep on any of these guys. Maybe even the drivers don't know what they've got and how far they can make it. Maybe just the crew chiefs down there, and maybe even the crew chiefs don't know. Maybe at this point they've just thrown the charts out the window and have said, you know what, run this thing to the checkers or run it out. One or the other. Closing in on 10 laps to go here in the Daytona 500. Down the back straightaway, we've got 5 drivers on the lead lap in this lead pack. 3 drivers are 1 lap down, Poteet, Mitchell, and McIntyre. All battling for, right now, what would be the 23rd position. They are 3 cars 1 lap down. Amanda Evans also 1 lap down, and James Qualls, whose evening did not start out the way he wanted. Mechanical problems before the green flag even dropped. 7 laps down to the leaders. Looks like he will be more than likely within the next couple of laps officially finishing 27th here tonight. And with Carson Gum out in front, I do not see Carson Gum making it on fuel. He was already 3 laps short, and he's now out in clean air. No way he can save. He is absolutely going to be having to come to pit road within the final 5 laps of this race. But what about some of these other guys? Matt Haas, be the biggest win of his career. It would cap off what's been an incredible couple of weeks for Toyota, winning the debuting Clash at Bowman Gray and then capping it off with a Daytona 500 victory. How about a guy like Andrew Lemke or Joshua Osborne? Lemke making his first run overall in the Duracell Cup Series. Joshua Osborne ran a handful of charter races last season for Evans Gardner Motorsports, but both of these drivers, it would be their first career win in the Duracell Cup Series. I mean, what a big one that would be. And how about the hometown guy, Cody Lamas, a Florida native? What would it be like for him to be able to win at the grandest stage of them all? Those are the drivers right now that we are focused on in this lead group. But the landscape of who the race leader is could change vastly when we get into the final few laps of this race. It'll be 8 laps to go next time by. Let's drop back to that second pack, who are racing it up like it's the last lap. We're 3 wide. That was Turner, Watson, and Patrick Smith, all 3 abreast for a moment. Now Michael Wayne Robinson put in the middle. Nick Gunther on the top side. These guys are realizing that this could be the race for the win, with some of these guys knowing that they can make it on fuel, and potentially the drivers in the pack up ahead of them, while they may have the track position now, they may not have it in the next 3 or 4 laps. This is going to get interesting. There's Dylan Young and Tim Walsh, Ryan Butcher, Trey Wright. I don't think he's going to have a shot at this victory, but we did have him projected as a driver that could make it the rest of the way, so he could, even though right now he's running in around the 17th, 18th position, he could snipe a top 10 finish, maybe even a top 5 finish here in this one before all is said and done. When does Carson Gum have the hand out the window? Because from this point on, the fuel window's open to be able to make it the rest of the way. You probably want to come down the latest possible, take on the littlest amount of fuel, spend the least amount of time on pit road, and not lose as much track position as you would if you came down and topped off the fuel tank now. But then, too, if he's the race leader coming to pit lane, we've already seen here with drivers having to kind of check up and slow up for drivers coming onto pit road. I mean, how's that going to affect this lead pack? Kyle Matthews and Austin LaPlante running a couple 100 feet ahead of the race leaders. I don't think they're going to come into play. Both running on the tail end of the lead lap in a battle for 21st place. Looks like Michael Wayne Robinson is now, Jesse Turner, Benny Watson, Michael Wayne Robinson are the top 3 in that second group. Well, Carson Gum is going to have a great showing here, but the finish is not going to result in just how strong his race car was. There's the dive to pit road, coming to 5 laps to go for Carson Gum. Could not make it on fuel. He knew it. He's cutting his losses now. Amanda Evans also on pit lane in the 65. Those were 2 drivers that we knew absolutely certain could not make it to the conclusion without diving onto pit road at least one more time to top it off. They were anywhere from 3 to 4 laps short of reaching the conclusion. Now the mind games begin. Now the strategy plays out. Can anyone make it to the checkered flag on what they've got in the tank? What's the racing been like in that second pack? Have the drivers we had on the list able to make it? Have they been racing too hard that they will not reach the conclusion? Lemke dives onto pit lane by his lonesome. Now it's going to be like a speedway race, I do believe, with drivers coming down by their lonesome. I don't think you're going to see packs of race cars. Now it's going to be the drivers that are willing to risk it versus the drivers that know that they absolutely cannot risk it. Carter Friesen on pit road in the 6. Kyle Matthews and Austin LaPlante have caught up to Cole Baker and Phil Parker, so that helps them generate a little bit more speed to stay ahead of the race leaders and stay on the lead lap. Dylan Pote throwing a block on Cody Lamas there as he's trying to get back on the lead lap, the inside of Matt Haas. Does this mean the 1's coming to pit road? No, but Osborne is in the 27. There's Turner, there's Robinson, there's Gunther going on by, as well as Batson. Those are the drivers we think can make it. Sanford and Watson are in. Trey Wright is blown up. Trey Wright has blown up on the back straightaway. No caution. He's out of harm's way. Car comes to a stop. If we can get that car back to pit road, we will not see a yellow. No caution as Trey Wright's engine gives up the ghost in the closing stages. The defending Daytona 500 winner, a driver who we thought could make it to the end, has suffered a mechanical problem with less than 3 to go. Cody Lamas, Matt Haas, they stay out an extra lap. 2 laps to go in the 500. That says to me these guys have made their bed. They're going to try and risk it. They've got the track position. If they run out of fuel, depending on where it is, would they be able to coast to the start-finish line ahead of drivers like Jesse Turner, Michael Wayne Robinson, and Nick Gunther? Lamas using the draft of Dylan Poteet, who right now is the last car on the lead lap in the 20th position. But he will pick up spots the more drivers come to pit lane. White flag is out. Lamas and Haas, they're going to be the 2 to decide it. But will they run out of fuel before they get back to the checkers? Jesse Turner, Michael Wayne Robinson, they certainly hope so. Lamas has no help on the outside line. Matt Haas will go to the lead. Gets pushed there by Levi McIntyre. Matt Haas trying to win the biggest race of his career. Levi McIntyre is pushing him there. Got traffic up ahead. Cody Lamas, I think, is out of fuel. That car is sputtering. Matt Haas is going to come out of turn number 4. Matt Haas and the Toyota Camry is going to win the Daytona 500 in Season 5. How about that, Matt Haas? The single car entry. Haas Racing is going to get Season 5 of the Duracell Cup Series started off with a victory in the Great American Race. It's the second time a Camry wins the Daytona 500. And Matt Haas and his team might be starting to make some plans for the postseason, for the playoffs already. And that car sounds like it's still under power. So he could have made it at least another lap, it sounds like. A fuel strategy race here today in the Daytona 500 as Matt Haas will get to celebrate in victory lane. What a week it's been for Toyota with Ryan Butcher's win in the Clash, and now Matt Haas with the win in the Great American Race. Let's take a look at the finishing results from this one. The fallout from what we saw in the closing stages. Matt Haas with the victory. Cody Lamas was able to make it on fuel. He will get second. Jesse Turner will finish in third. Michael Wayne Robinson in fourth. Nick Gunther, what a week it's been for that driver. A dual victory and a top 5 in his Duracell Cup Series debut. Pedro Lucas brings it home in 6th. Keith Batson 7th. Lemke was 8th. 9th was Joshua Osborne. And Carson Gums still manages to finish it inside of the top 10. And more importantly, he finished the race on all 4 wheels touching the ground. Carter Friesen will finish in 11th. Charles Sanford in 12th. Patrick Smith and Kyle Matthews will finish the last cars on the lead lap. Benny Watson was first car 1 lap down, completing the top 15. Levi McIntyre will finish in 16th, Jack Mitchell 17th, Dylan Poteet will get 18th, Tim Walsh 19th, Ryan Butcher completed the top 20, Dylan Young will finish 21st, 22nd for Austin LaPlante, Cole Baker was 23rd, 24th Phil Parker, Amanda Evans and Trey Wright in 25th and 26th. Trey Wright, of course, with the engine expiring in the closing stages of this race, did not officially retire out of the race, but 4 laps down. And James Qualls finishes 7 laps down as he had the mechanical problem at the beginning of the race, putting him immediately behind the 8 ball. All 27 cars scored in this race, although only 26 of them officially finished. Trey Wright's car was sitting on pit lane when the checkered flag waved, and only 14 drivers will finish on the lead lap. 7 of them were able to make it on that final pit stop without having to come to pit lane in the closing stages. 7 drivers had to duck onto pit road, but they still managed to finish on the lead lap as a result. But what a race here at Daytona. What a way to kick off Season 5. I've already talked about how the season's been kind of unorthodox with some of the ways that the races have been formulated. Our pull day qualifying session, where we held the Clash at a short track of Bowman Gray, and guess seems only appropriate that we have a rather unorthodox Daytona 500, where it comes down to not survival, not right place, right time, but who's got enough fuel to be able to make it to the conclusion of this race. But Matt Haas and the single car entry out of Haas Racing are going to fire the first shot, as they are the winners here in the Season 5 Daytona 500 for the Duracell Cup Series. Thank you all for tuning in to tonight's season opener. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We have shown your full finishing results. You will see your point standings next week at the beginning of our second race of the season, as these drivers will be heading to Manassas Speedway to continue on our Season 5 schedule. But until then, I've been Seth Cole. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it a lot. We'll see you guys more than likely next Saturday for race number 2 at Manassas here for the Duracell Cup Series, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the NNSCRA Sports and Gaming